Hello friends, today we will discuss about some important points of C# programming. So here is the list. First one is what is two-dimensional array means 2D array, as we already studied about one-dimensional array, 1D array. Now let's talk about two-dimensional array with examples. So we have some examples of two-dimensional array. So let's begin. Our first topic is two-dimensional array, 2D array. As we already studied about one-dimensional array, single-dimensional array, 1D array. Now today we will learn about two-dimensional array. A 2D array is an array with two indices, rows and columns like a table or matrix. So 2D array is a two indices, is a array where we provide rows and columns values into that table. It is like a table or matrix, means in a diagonal form we can get the output. Here is the syntax of this one. Data type means integer or string, and here we are using comma inside these square brackets because we have now rows and columns, means 2D array we want to use. Next one, the array name, and then we initialize some memory location for this one with the new data type, new keyword, and data type we have integer, string, whatever we have, and then rows and columns. Here we set the values, means 3 rows 2 columns, like that. Here we have the diagram of 2D array, means a matrix 3 by 3. So here we have 3 rows, but it always starts from 0 index, means row 0, row 1, row 2. Here we have 3 columns and 3 rows. And here if we want to put the values, then in this way we can assign these values into that matrix array, or other way we also have one. Here we have one first row and second column where we are assigning 6 value with this one. Here we have the two-dimensional array example. We use data type integer of arrays with square brackets, and inside it we write comma because we have now rows and columns. Here is the array name, and we use new keyword to allocate some memory to that elements, and we are using data type of integer, and here we provide 3 rows and 3 columns. Now we have elements which we provide while we are declaring the integer of arrays. We have now 3 rows and 3 columns. Now if we want to print these one into the same format, then we can use 2 loops. First one is considered for rows, and second one is considered for columns. Here we hard coded this value, means 3 values, means 3 rows we have and 3 columns. And if we want to print these values, then we can go with this way, means array name and then I or j, means it start from 0 and 0 index, and it will increase one by one as the loop will iterate. Now let's see the two-dimensional array. Here we can initialize some value, and so this is a single dimensional array, means one dimensional array, as we already saw this example into our last lecture. Now we have to see the two-dimensional array. So this is the declaration of integer of array with the two-dimensional, means rows and columns. Two-dimensional arrays. Here we can provide rows and columns value. First we can initialize some value at the starting. Okay, now we have 3 rows and 3 columns, and if we want to iterate and display these values, then we have to use 2 loops for this one. Here we have to set the static size for this one, as it will consider this one rows. Inside we have one for loop more, it will consider this one columns. Now if we want to display these values, then we can do it in this way, I and j. And if we want some space of every loop, after every loop, then we can do in this way. Now let's see what it will print. So we have all the values, but there is not much space inside it, and if we want to give some space, then we can do it in this way. Now again see this one. Now it is giving as it is in the matrix order, means in the table format we have all the data, means 3 rows and 3 columns. So this is the two-dimensional array. So here is the thing, we first declare some elements into this integer of array, and this is the declaration part where we set some values, mean 3 rows and 3 columns. And here we provide 2 for loops for this one. If we want to print these one, and one by one, and it will check all the elements into a sequence, means it starts from 0 index with I or j, then it will iterate and increase the values and print the values according to that. And next if we want to initialize in different way, then how we can do it? Array integer comma 3. If we do not want to initialize the values on the declaration time, then we can do it in this way. But this is the lengthy way. Now we have 3 rows and 3 columns. Here we have to set the values. Now we can set the values here also. So this is the first row, this is the second row, this is the third row, and we provide 3 columns for each row. Here are the 3 columns. Now let's check this one. So here we have the same output as it is, but this one is the lengthy approach. So if we want to declare one by one value to each element, then we can go in this way. Otherwise we can declare all the values or initialize all the values on the declaration time. So these are the 2 ways we can go with the two-dimensional array. We can change the size also. If we only want to use 2 rows with 2 columns, then we can go in this way. As we have to change the size also, as this one is hard coded, so we have to change it manually. Now let's say this one. Now we have the 2 rows. Okay, we have 2 rows. 2 rows with 2 columns. Now we have the 2 rows and 2 columns value. So as you can see, if we initialize extra items for this one, as we set the size for 2 rows and 2 columns, now how it will react to this situation? Now it is giving us an exception. So here we have to set the size according to that size, means according to that rows and columns, it will reflect as the output. And if we provide extra inputs means extra values to this array, it will throw us an error. So this is the two-dimensional array with this one declaration part, and this one is the lengthy declaration. Next we have one more example of two-dimensional array. We have some inbuilt methods where we do not hard code the values in for loops. Then we can use these inbuilt methods, means GetLength methods, GetLength 0 and GetLength 1, which are dynamics. It will set or get all the properties, means all the length of the array's values automatically, means dynamically it will fetch that value, means it will calculate how many rows are there or how many columns are there into that particular array. When you use GetLength 0, CSharp will calculate the total number of rows based on how you define the array. So if we provide GetLength 0 in first for loop, then it will fetch all the rows, means there are how many rows we are using into that particular array. When you use GetLength 1, CSharp will calculate the total number of columns. So if we use GetLength with 1, then it will calculate the total number of columns, means how many columns we provide into that particular array. So if you do not need to hard code sizes, means if we do not want to use these hard code values, means static values, we have to change after some time, then we can go or approach this way. It will automatically adapt to the array size, means it will automatically check the array size, means how many rows and columns are there into that particular arrays, like this one. Here we do not initialize the values for this one, we do not initialize or set the values for these arrays. Now it will calculate all the values with GetLength 0 with 3 rows and GetLength 1 with 3 columns we have. Here we have the example where we are using the same declaration with integer values, but we are using inbuilt method, means GetLength method with 0 and GetLength with 1. Now let's check this one also. We can comment this lengthy approach. We can go with this one, standard approach or normal flow. So if we do not want to use these hard coded values, then we can go with GetLength inbuilt methods. Here it will calculate all the rows into that particular arrays. Here we have 3 rows, so it will calculate 3 rows into that, means it is dynamic work, not the static one. And here we can also do it for columns. We can do in this way. It will calculate all the columns by default, means automatically it will get what is the size of the array, means how many rows are there, how many columns are there. Now let's check this one. So we have the same printed values, means in a diagonal form. And next thing is, if we do not want to set the size, means set the rows or columns on the declaration time, then how it will react, we can check this out. Now it is behaving in the same manner as it is. It automatically checks there are 3 rows and 3 columns. So this is the normal flow, means we can use these inbuilt methods rather than if we do not want to use the static values, means some hard coded values. If we do not want to use kind like this, so these are the static values. We have to change every time if the array's size is increased or decreased. Then we can go with the dynamic flow. We can use the dynamic values, means inbuilt functions we have, we can use in this way. So these are the two-dimensional arrays. Next we have today's summary. So let's revise what we learned today. First one is a two-dimensional array, an array with rows and columns storing data in a table like matrix structure. So two-dimensional array is like it stores the data in a rows and column format, like in a matrix format, means in a diagonally order structure like that. If we want to store that in two-dimensional array, then we have to set the size or means rows or columns when we declare these elements. We can declare directly on the declaration time the elements, or after that where we need it. Elements are stored in row major order, row by row in memory. So elements are stored in row by row order, means first row, and then it checks the column size, means how many columns are there, it will consider that also. It declared using int square brackets comma array name is equal to allocation of memory with new keyword data type and rows and column. So in this way we can declare the two-dimensional array, and if we want to access it, we can access it through like this. This is the array name which we provide while we declare the array. How we can access it, means with I and j we can access it. We can provide this thing into the loops, so it will iterate one by one, means through the indexing it will check and print the values according to the array, and it will print the arrays in a matrix form, in a table structure like that. So these are two-dimensional array. So these are the topics we learned today. You can practice them into your Visual Studio. If you have any query regarding these topics, you can mention them into the comment section. So let's wind up today's session. Thanks. See you in the next lecture.